yeah, that's about it. So it's definitely cool to see that Ayala has taken their own initiative in terms of waste management, and it's nice to see they involve also the surroundings and the landscape and the design and basically the landscaping and exterior design of the property to involve and include waste management and architecture, and also to kind of put it in the face of residents so that they're basically more able to throw their waste properly and dispose of it properly. So yeah, that was definitely really cool to hear about. And so now for our next guest, um, there's gonna be definitely a change of pace because our next guest lives in village, unlike our last guest, Lori. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Edward, who lives in Bel Air, Makati. So, Edward.
Thank you. So, I'm from the Bel Air Village, Makati, which is a gated subdivision. And generally, our different types of waste are the general household wastes, the recyclable wastes, hazardous waste, and large items. But aside from that, we also have more green wastes, which comprises more of the leaves, garden trimmings, when they when they cut down the trees or the branches, because it being a subdivision, there are more, in a sense, greenery that needs to be tended to. Then for the general household waste, it's just the general food waste, non-hazardous items, while the recyclable waste includes paper, cardboard, plastic bottles, glass containers, and metal cans. For large items, these actually are quite abundant because there's a lot of people renting in the village. Therefore, there's a lot of people moving in and out. So, a lot of furniture, different appliances, mattresses, and other bulky items are also there. But yeah. So for the protocols in the Bel Air Village, um, they they collaborate with different waste management agencies to ensure proper waste collection, hopefully also disposal and recycling. So regular waste is actually scheduled every day around 8 to 10 o'clock at night. Um, this is in order to maintain cleanliness and hygiene in the village. Um, Aside from this, there are also multiple educational campaigns and awareness, such as posters, different signs around the village, in order to promote um, recycling, reducing and reusing your waste, such as proper segregation. Um, Aside from this, the waste management protocols also comply with local regulations in order to minimize the environmental impact of the waste disposal. And yeah, so for um, hazardous waste, in a sense, these are actually picked up depending on how much there is that is stocked up. So if it's a lot, this week they might schedule a pickup earlier, but normally they go once or twice a month. These hazardous waste include batteries, paints, pesticides, cleaning chemicals, and electronic waste. So residents don't really dispose this in their regular waste in order to um, basically it's for safety for the people handling the daily waste, as they're not properly equipped to deal with anything that might be hazardous, and of course their health is also one of our priorities. And yeah, so for large item disposals, it being a village, there's a lot of people moving in and out, as well as construction being done. So for any large item disposals, it's either you contact the village administration office, or you could go through a private um, disposal service. So everything, all these large items cannot just be left on a curb because there's no regular pickup for it. But it can be easily set up with the village admin. So normally, if you go through the village admin, you have to pay a small fee for disposing depending on the size and the item, and also they have to follow the proper guidelines in order to ensure proper and responsible disposal of large items. As for construction, they actually charge a construction quote unquote fee, which is like a deposit, where if the construction does not follow the guidelines, they lose this deposit, but they get it back if they follow the proper guidelines and not make a mess in a sense. Yep, I think that is all for me.
Well, thank you for that, Edward. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. And so, yeah, it's definitely refreshing to see how strict also it is in villages, and it's cool to see your village takes an initiative to have set schedule in terms of its waste disposal. Like you said, the 8 to 10 at night, which is really cool. So you, one can only imagine that there's not so much stockpile of waste in your village, which I've seen in my village in Alabang sometimes because of the pickup, yeah, the pickups, which are I believe every other day. So yeah, it's definitely cool to see, and also it's nice that they have proper hazardous waste disposal, and um, and it's also nice to see that there are fines in place for breaking the rules and not following regulations. So it definitely promotes a lot more cleanlier environment, and I can only imagine it betters the living of all of you guys as residents. So thank you for that, Edward. That was very refreshing. And now for our next guest, he's also a close friend from Enron. He lives in not the house, but now we're switching it back to kind of like Lori style. We're going back to apartment buildings. So he's also a resident of BGC, and he lives basically across BGC from Lori. So it's yeah, from Regent Parkway. Without further ado, Mr. Enrique.
Hey Mikey, hi viewers. As mentioned by Mikey, I do live in BGC as well. Regent Parkway is a 35-story Grade A residential building. It is located along 21st Drive in the southmost part of BGC. And its completion was last 2002. And as you step in Regent Parkway, you'll immediately notice the luxurious atmosphere with its high ceilings, elegant furniture, and stunning view of the city. What I'll be discussing, however, isn't so luxurious or as appealing, as I will be talking about the waste management of the building. Now, I was fortunate enough to interview the building manager of the condo, and he gave me a mini tour of the facilities. Um, According to him, the building does its very best to segregate its trash into four categories: dry, wet, recyclable, and hazardous. Now, dry being um, stuff such as paper, cardboard, uh, empty food containers. Wet includes leftover foods, uh, cooking oil such as grease and stuff. Um, Recyclable trash comprises of glass, plastic containers, um, and even electronic waste. And lastly, hazardous includes medical waste, pesticides, anything that could be harmful for us humans. Now, with larger pieces of garbage, tenants must request a staff member from the building to bring it down to the main garbage room, where it will be taken care of by them. Now, each floor of the building has a common garbage room, which is literally a room with a garbage bin. No garbage chutes, and garbage collection within the day is twice a day. Within the building is twice a day, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. This is apparently because these are the times it usually gets congested and full after major meals of the day, lunch and dinner. According to the building manager, it is to maintain overall cleanliness, as the room is not so spacious and easily gets filled up if not regularly done. Now, it is all then transferred to the main garbage room on the first floor of the basement, where it is manually segregated by the staff of the building. They, of course, wear the proper and necessary gear such as PPE, gloves, protective goggles, and face masks to ensure their health and safety. Um, then, after all the trash is segregated, it is then ready for collection by a contracted collection group. They collect the trash of the entire building every day at 10 p.m. This is to ensure overall health and hygiene of the building and its tenants. Um, According to the building manager, he has plans of making waste management more efficient. And when asked how, he said by enforcing stricter rules on segregation of trash by the tenants and renovating rooms where garbage is stored, as they have received multiple complaints that it does not look very clean and visually appealing. Um, in Region Parkway, I believe more precautions may be done in order to segregate trash better, as they are solely relying on memos given to the tenants and not really enforcing and not really fining people. That's all.
Well, thank you for that, Enrique. That was, yeah, it's definitely different from the others as well. So, yeah, let's give him a round of applause, everyone. And so, yeah, it's definitely cool to see that also you were able to talk to the building manager regarding all these protocols and rules. And yeah, it's like you said, in terms of the regulations, like they don't focus more on that, but more on providing sufficient enough times for them to pick up their trash. Like you said, the renovation of the waste room. So yeah, to make it a little more visual appealing for the community, the local who lives in the building, the yeah, and like and for the residents themselves, basically, yeah, you can definitely see a different approach from Bel Air. Um, to each their own, but and seems like it's working fine from what I hear, and you're enjoying your stay there. So yeah, it's definitely cool to see how they deal with waste management in Regent Parkway. So on to our next guest of today, uh, another close friend from school. His name is Paul, and so Paul lives in Cavite, specifically in Barangay Alapan 2A, Parksville Residences in Imus. So, without further ado, our last and final guest for today, Paul.
Yeah, so thank you for that, Mikey. Hello, viewers. And I reside in Imus, Cavite. The name of my residence is Parksville Residences. And Parksville is not the only village here in our place. I think there's like 9 other villages as well. So let's get into the types of waste that our village produced, and these are only general waste such as like paper, plastic, glass, metal, organic waste like food scraps and garden waste, and other non-recyclable waste. Now, it is encouraged by the admin to for the residents to separate their waste into different categories, such as recyclables, organic waste, and non-recyclables. Uh, this this isn't really enforced very well in our village because I don't really see much households doing the segregation process of their waste. They basically just dump all everything at once. And but however, I think most households in our village we separate glass into everything else like the paper, plastics, and metals, because there's also you can we can in our village you can earn a profit in reselling glass bottles, uh, and yeah, in our village, like I said, we separate the bottles from many different kinds of waste. Now let's move on to recycling. Recycling, there's not really an established continuous recycling program in our village. However, there were some initiatives such as when designing homes for for seasons like November and December, it is encouraged the for the household communities to buy decorations through recycled materials. Now, on to composting. Compost is a really big thing in our village. It is highly promoted. However,